But earlier on, you mentioned that every investment, especially in share investment or equity investment, that is buying ownership into a company, that there's risk. So, what risk do you think that people should have in mind for the Dangote IPO? Is it overvaluation? Like, what risk do you have in mind?
When it comes to risk, I mean, every business has a risk. So if someone is offering you a business opportunity, or they ask you to come and buy into an IPO, and they tell you, this business has no risk, please run, oh, like run as fast as you possibly can. So, and that's simply because there is no business without risk.
Yep.
For the Dangote refinery, I would say definitely it has its own risks. But it's one of the companies that you're just so sure, like, that all things are aligning for them already, have aligned for them. You know, um, One of the biggest reasons for me personally, one of the reasons why I would invest really, I'm investing is simply because for a company to come out, and be able to substantially solve this one problem. I'll mention the problem. There's this problem that I saw growing up. I was a part of it. I remember some of the bad experiences I had. And that problem is queuing for fuel. You know how long we queue for fuel? You see people queuing from Allen Avenue down the road. Like, so Dangote Refinery is one of the companies, well, I would say it's a singular company that would most likely solve that problem. Meaning this might be the end to those kind of queues that we used to see. Right. But in terms of risk, of course, there is the oil price dependency. So usually, and what does that mean? Usually, refinery margins track crude and refined products prices globally, right? So there's usually a global price and all of that. So an oil price crash, meaning that when the price of oil globally crashes or global demand reduces, that can actually compress the company's profitability or reduce profitability. That is one risk, right? But the reason why, and every risk can be mitigated also as well, right? The reason why that can be easily mitigated is simply because there will always be demand for fuel. It's natural. Would there be a day where people will not go out and take transport? Would there be a day where people will not turn on gen to run their companies? Would there be a day where people will not use fuel when they want to sleep at night, particularly in Nigeria, right? Where we still have the issue of power, right? Even where they don't have power, like fuel powers the economy of the world, essentially, right? So that's that. There's also Naira volatility, from IPO announcement to subscription. Naira could move significantly, because the Nigerian Naira is one of the most volatile. So, and this can affect the cost of your investment and the timing of your capital deployment as well, right? But if you plan wisely, you can definitely mitigate that. There is also the regulatory risk. What does that mean? It simply means um, the dollar dividend structure requires approval from SEC. SEC is the Securities Exchange Commission. They are the guys in charge of all these things. So if this changes, the core investments,
Basis.
exactly, for Naira investors can weaken. But again, the reason why that also can be mitigated is because the Nigerian government is a part owner of the Dangote refinery. According to what we have heard, NNPC owns over 7%. 7% is not small when you own Dangote Refinery, right? There is also the risk of over subscription, especially with the viral news of the viral video of Mr. Otedola yesterday, where he was saying that he's selling, when some people will hear that, and that'll be the first time they will hear about it, and they will say,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes.
So it does have it has its own risks, but just like every business, but again, most risks like that are easily mitigated when the people in the driving seats know exactly what to do. They know what they are doing. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think that is very, very true because again, for every risk, there's a mitigant. I think that is why this refinery is very interesting too because he also exports.
Mhm.
Currently, he's basically fueling the
Exactly.
he's basically fueling Europe's airlines right now.
I'm telling
Like,
you, jet fuel
yes,
export to
just
Europe
for yes,
and all of
exactly.
that. The
Yeah.
Nigerian government, through an NPC. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot, and that's why you would understand that it is very emotional,
Mm-hmm.
because it's both emotional, and of course, it also makes sense to many wise investors. The fundamentals are real. In terms of revenue as well, revenue grew from $3.3 billion, to 18 billion over 5 years. That's not, you don't get that from many businesses. From 3.3 billion to over $18 billion in 5 years. You know, so I think that the emotions that we're seeing is very real, and
Mm-hmm.
there are reasons why those emotions are there.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I completely agree. I think living in Nigeria, working in Nigeria, you can already see the impact that the refinery has had in day to day. I think before, if not that we had a local source of
Hmm.
petrol,
Yeah,
would be, especially during this Iran crisis, we'll be talking of a different thing right now in Nigeria.
exactly.
Um, yeah, so as retail investors, as we get ready for this unique opportunity, I think it's important to state that Parthian Partners and I Invest, we have this ready for you. So when it's live, you can get it through the platform. Also, in the chat box, the chat is open right now. You can see the wait list. So you can just quickly just log in. So when it's live, you get a prompt
Yeah.
and you can get it at the IPO price basically. So that again, as Mr. Isaac has stated, when you get it at that price, as the price appreciates, your wealth grows. So how would you say that investors should be preparing right now? What does getting ready look like? Because I've had some friends ask me how much should they put somewhere, what should they do? So like, what do you think getting ready looks like?
Well, I think getting ready would depend on what your personal goals are, what your money goals are. So for instance, now getting ready for someone like myself is gonna be different from getting ready for someone like Otedola. That's just like saying. So that's the first thing. But I mean that's on a lighter note. But getting ready really has to do with how much do you have to invest,
Mhm,
you know. So I'll share this for a fact. One of the things I've been thinking about is I'm gonna sell a couple of my shares, basically pull money from my current portfolio so I can have substantial cash infused in the Dangote Refinery IPO, right? And that's not to say the companies I'm taking that money away from are not good, are no longer good. It's simply because when it comes to IPO of a serious business like this, if it were a business like, okay, cosmetic company, of course, I won't take it seriously that much, right? But something that Nigerians live and breathe on,
mhm,
So just imagine any company in Nigeria today they can't survive. Companies in Nigeria will close down without fail. Why? Because they depend on this on a daily basis. So
mhm,
that's why it makes sense. It's just like MTN. It's like saying MTN will crash tomorrow, or it will always make sense to invest in MTN. Why? Because they are a very, very important part of the economy. Why? Because you can't find 10 Nigerians, for instance, sitting in the same place, and then you will not see at least 4 to 5 of them are using the MTN network.
mhm,
That's number one. Number two, you can barely find three Nigerians and two of them are not using a mobile phone, if you get what I mean. What does that mean? It means that on a daily basis, that data is like life. It's almost like food. You can't do without it. So what does that mean? MTN will always thrive. The same thing with the refinery. What does that mean? For MTN to continue to exist, they have to use fuel. MTN cannot depend on NEPA or PHTN rather, for the entire thing they do. And the same thing goes for most companies in Nigeria. They have to depend on these guys, fuel, petrol, diesel, and whatnot. So what does that mean? This is an IPO to not joke with. And why don't you joke with it? Because um, history at times, not always, but at times history does repeat itself. We've seen Nvidia, for instance, like I said earlier, $100, just $100 is how much today? That's like 150,000 naira, if I'm correct, right? Thereabouts. If you invested that amount in Nvidia in 1999, that was when Nvidia went,
okay,
live
mhm,
IPO. If you invested that money then, just 1999, about, it would be worth 888 thousand dollars. Do you
mhm,
know how much that is in naira? That is 1.2 billion naira today.
mhm,
Now, why? Because number one, they were into the right business, or they are into the right business. And number two, they have good management structure, and they've grown and scaled over time, right? Now, not every business would definitely achieve that kind of milestone, but based on what we know about Dangote, he's built Dangote Cement, he's built Dangote Sugar, he's built quite a number of, institutions today, right? And now he's going to refinery, and he has the backing of the federal government. Come on, you know, there are too many things that are going right than the few that might go wrong. So with that,
Mhm.
I don't want to joke with that. And I also like to give the example of Aramco. Aramco, that's a Saudi Arabian
Saudi
company,
Arabia.
right?
Mm.
That was in 1980. They also went IPO. And just like Dangote Refinery is doing, they opened it up to their citizens, and thousands of everyday normal average Saudis
Mm.
actually became wealthy just because they bought into it at the right time.
Mm.
So my advice, of course, you should do your research, but personally speaking, I would advise an average Nigerian, particularly if you're in the Moneywise community, to definitely lock in. And great thing is, one of the questions I've gotten asked over and again is, how do we position? Which platform can we buy from? Right.
Mm.
But today you can actually buy directly from iInvest. Uh,
Mhm.
they are they are one of the partners that are
Mhm.
part of the deal, meaning that when you download their app, you can buy the IPO directly on
Mhm.
iInvest. Right. Now, how should you prepare? Prepare based on the amount you can get, as much as you can get. But again, um, people don't like to hear this, but do not invest an amount that you cannot do without. That's also very
Mhm.
important, right? So, investment is a risky thing, but again, there's nothing in life that does not come with a risk. Like I always, so, plan based on how much you can afford, and
Mhm.
then when you are investing in this IPO, please invest with the mindset of 3 to 5 years at least.
Mhm.
So that way you get to, because when we talk about Nvidia and we talk about Aramco,
Mhm.
because if you invested during the IPO and you took out your money after 1 year, you won't be one of the
Nothing
people
for
that are
you.
saying that the money became blah blah blah.
Mhm.
Those who gained the most were those that left their money for the long term. And that's
Mhm.
how to invest in an IPO. So if you're looking to invest money and put in money and then you want to withdraw it in the next 1 month, after it has grown by 30%, then you're not an investor, you're a speculator, you know. But what you want
Mhm.
to do is you want to invest, you want to save money, go and get money, get money. Thankfully, it's now September. I heard Dangote say that today by himself today. So meaning that you have time. This is May, June,
Me.
July, August. That's like 4 months, of
Mhm.
window, and then save money together, pull money together, pull funds together, and then
Mhm.
once the time comes and you're already in the iInvest platform, you can buy directly live there. Once you buy it, it means you become a part owner of the world acclaimed Dangote Refinery, right? And then when the growth begins to happen, you leave it for, like I said, for at least 3 to 5 years. Then
Mhm.
you then see uh the power of compound interest, because what you
Mhm.
have done is you'll have allowed time to do its work. And
Mhm.
when it comes to building wealth, the single biggest leverage really that investors use is actually time, the time factor.
Mhm.
So it's just like saying you want to um you want to impregnate somebody, and then you want them to get, it's not the same day a woman gets pregnant that they give birth. You have to wait. So
Mhm.
anything great takes the time. The same thing with investment as well. What compounds it is time. So
Mhm.
first thing, lock into the right investment at the right time. The
Mhm.
second thing, if you can, the second strategy you want to deploy is, once you've locked in during IPO, then secondly, if possible, you want to
Open up to.
clean up and topping up, possibly on a monthly basis, weekly basis, depending on how you get income. If you're a salaried person, on a monthly basis, just top up with any amount you can, right?
Mhm.
And then time yourself to do that for the next 3 years or 5 years. And trust me,
Mhm.
after 5 years, you would most likely smile.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like as Mr. Pascal says in the chat too, the hype is actually justified. So for young Nigerians on the call right now, or for Nigerians on the call, how would you say they should approach this opportunity like as part of a broader wealth building strategy? Because of course you would know that the stock market is on like a 6 year bull run right now.
Yeah.
So how would you say like this opportunity will help like changing the broader mindset of wealth building in Nigeria, particularly?
Yeah. For me, I'll say they should approach it with a change of mindset. A change of mindset. And that's one thing I am very passionate about, because see, just anybody can build wealth if they care enough to know what to do and to take action. No matter your background, no matter where you're coming from, you can build wealth. You can scale wealth if you care enough to know what to do and you care enough to take action. So I would say with a mindset shifts, they should look at this opportunity with a change of mindsets, More and I say that because most Nigerians have been taught to save, save in naira, save in dollars, save in cooperatives, saving, and saving is very good, saving is very good. We have a community that does that, but we just call it saving. It's really not saving. We are investing the money for our community, right? But saving alone has never really built generational wealth, and why is that? When you save in the bank, the most the bank will give you is probably 5% or there about 6%, and that's way lesser than inflation. Right. So what builds wealth really is not just saving. What builds wealth, real wealth, is ownership. When you own something, whether it's a company, whether it's stock, whether you're starting a company, whether you're buying stock, whether you are owning hearts. But essentially it is ownership that builds wealth. The wealthy in every economy own things. Why is Elon Musk the wealthiest man in the world? Because he owns if you took away Elon Musk companies, it becomes as poor as an average person. And of course, it can build again. So, but my point here is what makes you wealthy it's not just saving, it is getting that money and putting it in investments, right? So the wealthy own shares, they own businesses, they own real estates. You can see all of these things are about ownership. They are not about just saving. So this IPO is an invitation to start practicing that ownership or for those who have been investing, is to basically scale, your ownership. So even if you only buy a very small amount, based on how much you have, you are learning the muscle of being an owner, and then going beyond just saving. And once you build that muscle, you can carry it into every other opportunity that life brings you. And
Yep.
for me, I think that this particular one, the refinery, like we have said again, it's not your regular IPO. If
Mm.
you've seen IPOs come and go, this one is the biggest IPO Nigeria has ever seen since the creation of Nigeria. So we don't take it lightly. And again, it is not fronted or led by an ordinary person or a rookie. It's led by Africa's wealthiest man. So it will take um it will take someone who is not serious about their future to take this lightly, actually.
Yeah. So thank you very much, James. I think there are some questions in the chat. Thank you for the questions. So Damilola asks, how much can we estimate will be the share price per unit? Like, can we estimate that right now? I don't think like that info is out thus far. But what I can say, drawing in line with examples that we use like in MTN, do you want it to be retail accessible? So like they might it to be retail accessible. So that's something that we have in mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yes. So what's the timeline for the IPO and when will it start and how long will it be open for?
Yeah, so the timeline for the IPO, I mean, before it was set to be around June, but I mean, Dangote announced yesterday that's gonna be September. That's the timeline, right? But with these things, things can change. They could decide to make it earlier, maybe August or July. So, but I think the key thing really is to prepare and be ready when it is live. And I think one of the best ways to prepare really is to be on the right platform where you can get access once it goes live. And why is that important? That's very, very important. And the reason why that's important is because the only challenge, like I said earlier, the only risk that people can also take on with this opportunity is the risk of, one of the risks rather, is the risk of over subscription. Why? Because it's a fantastic product. It's just like when you enter markets, where they are selling oranges, and most people are selling sport oranges, and then you enter with a good one. What happens? Yours gets,
Just
taken
guys,
immediately. So that
yes.
is what's happening here. So that's what we call over subscription. So, um, so I would say get ready. And getting ready again means being on the right platform. You open your accounts, have everything set up, then have that money somewhere. You can probably have it um in a savings platform where you can access it easily once the IPO goes live, or
Mm,
yeah, an instrument where basically the money is as liquid as can be. So that once
mm.
it happens, you basically take your money and then you do what? You shoot, you
You're ready
position
to go.
accordingly. Yeah.
Ready to go. And the good thing is that on iInvest, we have all these instruments already waiting for you. So if you like, our waiting list is on the chat. So you just connect to the waiting list and you're good to go. So when the information is out, we can share. Another question here is, can I buy in USD or just in Naira? I believe the answer to that would be just in Naira, because it will be listed on the NGX. But there's story about a dual listing. I do not know about that thus far. But on the timeline question, it's also important to state that this will happen. Like, I think there's a Nigerianism in which we always keep on taking that something like the IPO will happen. Parties are being appointed, issuing houses, stockbrokers. Parthian is part of the stockbrokers that are being appointed. So this transaction will happen.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I think the good thing about this conversation is that some of my burning questions about how this will change our market, you have already kind of answered it. Because again, if the company is valued at 50 billion and wants to list 10%, that is 5 billion. 5
Mhm.
billion in Naira, if you put that in your calculator, I think it will show you exponential. It will show you exponential. So
Right.
that just tells you what that impact will be in the
Yeah.
capital market. So it will grow the NGX, will grow the NGX per se. But on your own side, do you see like from your clients and followers and everything, do you see this like do you see a fundamental shift in how people are thinking about wealth creation in Nigeria? Because again, you know that a lot of people were born in the stock market in 2000, 2008 and cool. Do you see this IPO bringing back that confidence in ourselves and also confidence in our market?
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Wait, and that's a very beautiful question because one of the questions I've also gotten asked, across the different platforms really is, oh, the stock market crashed at a so point, whether it was the US stock market or the Nigerian stock market. Yeah. And my answer is always the same, really. you know. Um, for everything, there's usually a circle, right? And that circle does not mean that that thing does not work. It just means that
Mhm.
it has to go through a circle, right? So, and interesting, if you also take notes very well, when the last time there was a crash, what you find is that people who did not sell their shares actually bounce back even greater. So, and that is one of the differences between investors and speculators. The stock market is run by human beings. What does that mean? It simply means that it has emotions. Why? Why do people sell their stocks? People sell their stocks when they feel like, oh, something's going to happen. That's emotional. Why do people buy? Okay, why are you buying Dangote Refinery right now? If I'm to ask you, you're simply buying because the rave and the noise is everywhere. You know, some people today would decide to buy who never decided to just because of what Otedola has said. So what's driving that? Emotions. Now, emotions primarily is one of the fundamental things that drive the stock market, whether in Nigeria, in the US, anywhere in the world, right? And what does that mean? What does that say? It simply means that even as an individual, is it every time that you are always at your best, in your best mode? No. There are times when so the same thing goes with the stock markets. But that doesn't mean that because you are angry right now, that's how you will be for the rest of your life. So, and that's why people who sell based on emotions are those who lose the most when it comes to building
Investing.
through um stock investments. So
Mhm.
what wise people do is when emotions rise and you see that the graphs are coming down or the
Mhm.
market is red, one of the things I do, what wise investors do really is you look at the company in as the fundamentals change.
Mhm.
You
That's
know,
very important. That's very
the
important.
company as the company experience a fundamental shift, or if nothing has happened to the company and the company is still as strong as it used to be,
Mhm.
that's actually one of the best times to buy more. And we call it buying at a discount.
Mhm. Buying the dip.
That's also why um buying on a monthly basis is also a very, very important strategy. Why? Because you are basically doing what we call dollar cost averaging. So it means that this month you buy low, this month you buy a regular price, this month you buy high. Over time, you'll have averaged the best times in the market. And that's one of the things that helps your wealth to
Mhm.
compound over time.
Mhm.
So yes, people have been bought in the past, but the truth also remains that the fundamentals remain the fundamental. As long as the company is good, the company offers what people buy and sell, there will definitely be a comeback, and usually it will be even greater. And we've seen that with companies like MTN, with companies
Mhm.
like Aradel, with companies like Seplat, right? So the only difference here is that this guy called Dangote Refinery is the great grandfather of all of them, right? So yeah, there's been that. But what I've also seen is that more than ever before, people are actually now um being very deliberate about building wealth. That's what I've seen because I've found also that the reason why people are also not building wealth, one of the biggest reasons, it's not because they don't want to build wealth, it's because they do not know enough. So when you see how much people don't know about these basic things, you'll be shocked. They just don't know. When they know, you see how much they pour themselves into it and they start building wealth. I get at times when I see people send me DMs and I at times it can be teary. I've seen a single mother who made millions in the space of 1, 2 months just by
Mhm.
investing in the right company. And this is what stock markets can do for you. And that's why opportunities like this should not be taken for granted, particularly if you're still very young. If you're young, you're a professional, you're making money, you have your salary, one of the questions you want to ask yourself is the way I go to work every day, do I deserve that my money, the money I earn with my sweat, do I deserve to have that money also work for me?
Mhm.
Because when you invest, what you're doing, you're not putting your money away. You're not dashing people your money. No, you are simply telling your money that you're in control. And because you are working, you also want the money to work for you. And if you do that constantly over time, what then happens is that you get to a point where the money will begin to work harder than you are working. And then if you continue with that trajectory, you then get to a point where we call financial freedom. And what is financial freedom? It's very simple. Financial freedom is simply um getting to a place, where you have invested over time, over the years, with discipline. And then we will get to a place one day where the interests
Mhm.
on your investments can pay
Mhm.
your bills.
Mhm.
For example, you live in Nigeria today. Let's say your monthly costs. When I say monthly costs, the amount it takes for you to live, to pay your rent, to get transport, feeding, and whatnot. Let's say it comes to 1 million naira every month, right? Do you know you can have investment, you know, whether in the stock markets, in treasury bills, in the money, whatever, and then on a monthly basis, the interests, not the actual money, the interest coming from your money can actually be up to 1 million naira. What happens at that time? You no longer work because you just want to earn. You begin to work, for purpose. You begin to do work that matters to you. You're able to spend quality time with people that matter to you. And then even at that, you're able to probably build your own company or do what you want. And if you want to continue to work as well, it will not be because you must do it. It will be because you love what you do. And I think everyone deserves to get to that point in life.
Yes. Yes, I completely agree. Completely agree on it. And I think one point you made about the financial literacy. You want to do what you don't know, yeah, basically. If you
Yeah.
don't know that these opportunities are around, you won't key into them. So I think that is why it's important for what you do, and it's also important what we do at Money Lounge here, which is basically using the platform I invest to push out financial literacy because opportunities reward the informed and not just the excited. So if you are just excited about the opportunities and you're not really informed about them, you won't get that much reward as you should. So I think another question is how can we get the capital structure of the Dangote Refinery before the IPO?
How can you get a capital structure? That's very
Mm-hmm.
straightforward. So the capital structure, the documents, the reports, everything will be on the Dangote refinery website or the Dangote Group website. If you don't find anything there, it simply means that they are still building the prospectus,
Yeah.
right? But one of the things you want to do if you are particularly investing in the Dangote Refinery IPO, of course, is you want to go to the websites, download all the reports they have there, synthesize, sorry, that's big grammar. You want to take your time to read through it, and also understand it for yourself. That is if you have the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But on a basic level, really, um, the reports are out there, and the report is basically the fact that number one, this is a $50 billion company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they are selling 10%, which is $5 billion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is 10% stake is being offered to an average Nigerian, right? And aside from that as well, this is a company that is doing 650,000 barrels per day, $20 billion invested in construction, right?
Mm-hmm.
The government owns a part of it, right? And of course, if you compare to the MTN IPO, like I said earlier, it is in multiple folds. Then aside from that, also you also want to look at when it also comes to reports, one of the things you find in reports is what is their source of revenue? How do they make money? Right?
Mm-hmm.
The Dangote Refinery makes money in multiple ways. It's one of those companies that have what we call multiple streams of income. So what does that mean? It means that it's not a company that makes money from one source, because that's again it's a big risk. So it means that if anything happens to that source, the company is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Dangote Refinery makes money from multiple, number one, petrol and diesel, right? That is the primary domestic fuel support. The powers Nigeria's generator, fuel, Okada, Danfo. Yeah, you know how many of them we have? Millions of them on Nigerian road every day. So when they buy, the company is making billions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you have aviation fuel. What does that mean? Aeroplane, the aeroplanes that fly, Dangote Refinery actually produces what they use to fly, right? And that is required globally. Europe now depends on Dangote Refinery's fuel, meaning that one of the customers of the Dangote Refinery is actually Europe, right? So just imagine what that means. Then there is petrochemicals, and when we say petrochemicals, I mean industrial chemicals
The
like
plastics, yeah.
plastics, polymer,
Mm-hmm.
and all those things. They use them for plastics, they use them for soap. So all the soap you
Mm-hmm.
buy, the detergents, their produce is one of the things that is used to make it. Then we also have the export revenue, exporting a lot of those things. As of the last report I read, 6.4 billion is the estimated annual revenue, from that they'll be getting from exports, that will be paid in dollars. And that's why Dangote can beat his chest to say that we will pay you in any
Also pay
currency you want to be
dividends.
paid in.
Yeah.
And there's the African energy demand as well. Nigeria's um, energy demand is alarming right now, and that's why many people are going the route of solar power and all of those things. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because demand is there. NEPA takes lights, you people because right now, we are in the digital economy, AI and everything. People want to sit in front of their laptops and they want to work 24/7 almost. So for you to do that, you need power, right? So that's directly powers Dangote Refinery. There's also industrial and storage. So there are just
A lot of
many
sense. Yeah.
avenues where the company makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. I think like that is a very interesting thing because if you have to plot the revenue map for the refinery, you can just keep on plotting.
yeah, you will
You can
probably
just
get
keep
like 10
on,
businesses in that refinery,
yeah,
if not more,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they are
You can
still
just keep
making
on
more.
plotting. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think like when the information will surely come out because it's going to be a public company, so they're going to bring out the information for all of us to scrutinize. If you're on our waiting list, the link is in the chat. you also get that information. Parthian will also deliver research reports, basically focused on the refinery and the opportunity inclined. Yes, this session is being recorded, so you can get the recordings. So that if you didn't join us from the beginning,
Oh,
yeah, so that if you didn't join us from the beginning, you can get that too. Another question here, is it advisable to buy during IPO because of volatility hype or wait till few months after IPO to wait for things to stabilize? I think Mr. Isaac has one way or the other already answered that. Other things being equal, the IPO price is going to be the lowest price. You're going to be the lowest price you get for the refinery. I don't know if Mr. Isaac has anything particular to say about that.
yeah, in terms of when to buy, right?
Yes.
To buy during the well, I think both, I would say both of them have their advantages and disadvantages. And the right choice really depends on who you are as an investor. And that's why I would say it depends on your goal. So buying during the IPO has three key advantages. One is that you actually get the lowest entry price that the company will ever offer to the public, because the price offered during IPO will never be the price that the company will be for the rest of their existence, right? So that's one of the major benefits of buying during IPO. The IPO price is set deliberately to attract demand, and that's why usually it will be low. So the price below what the company believes the shares are actually worth in most cases. Second, when it comes to the advantages, really, is that you get guaranteed allotment. Of course, that will be subject to oversubscription based on what we are seeing right now. Everybody in Nigeria wants to invest in Dangote Refinery, right? After listing, you basically compete with the open markets and the price moves freely. So
Mhm.
that's what happens, because after once it has listed, it will then be a case of if it is available or not.
Mhm.
And then thirdly is there is something really powerful about being a founding public shareholder of a company like this, because
Mhm.
you enter on day one and you ride the entire journey.
Wait,
So,
yeah.
so when they are saying that story, like we are saying the story of Nvidia and Aramco, right? You can beat your chest to say, yes, I was a part of it during IPO. Many people lay that claim about MTN's IPO today, because when
Yes,
it went live, it was, you can
it
imagine
was
the,
everywhere.
and imagine the price today. So imagine
Mhm.
if you invested just 10 million naira in MTN when it launched,
Mhm.
you'll have made a whole lot more, in
Yeah.
terms of your returns today, right?
Mhm.
But in terms of the disadvantages as well, of course, there are also a couple. One, you are buying on, it's possible that you're also buying on hype instead of
Mhm.
performance. Why? Because um, after the IPO, the company ceases from being a private company and now becomes a public company. Right now, we've not seen it perform as a public company.
It's a public company
So it
before.
means
Yeah.
that you are basically investing in the potential of that company to also
Yep.
be a successful public
Yep.
company.
Yep.
So you are buying on hype rather than performance. That's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
So the
Mhm.
shares have no trading history yet. So
Mhm.
you cannot see how the market, is pricing the business in real time. So
Mhm.
for any share, MTN, for instance, now you can look at the graph when you go to any app. If you go
Mhm.
to iInvest, now you can look at the trajectory, right?
Mhm.
See, okay, this company has progressed upward over time. But for
Mhm.
the refinery, you can't see that.
Mhm.
Second, of course, is oversubscription means that you may not get all the shares you applied for.
Mhm.
in- And demand will likely exceed for supply from what we are seeing. So
Mhm.
a person who applies for 1 million naira worth might receive maybe 200 or 400,000 naira worth at the end of the day, right? And then lastly, your money is locked up between subscription and allotment. Sometimes that can be up to 2 months or 3 months, with no returns during that period. So what I
Mhm.
mean is once you buy IPO, for instance, it might take a while, before everything, gets started, if you get what I mean. So it has its advantages and its disadvantages. But if you ask me, um, which one is more favorable, I would say definitely locking in during IPO, right? Because history is rife with many stories like that. Nvidia, Aramco, MTN, and the likes, right? And people that bought during IPO, as long as it's the right company, they, you know, almost always smile to the bank. So I would say if you're looking at this opportunity, for me, it makes sense to lock in. Um, I would say definitely lock in during IPO as much as you can. And then if you can then also begin to top up on a monthly basis as the company progresses. And of course, stay close to the performance, stay close to news, and stay close to the trends when it comes to the refinery. So over time, you can build that confidence to say, yes, you put your money in the right company and you are seeing the growth over time.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Mr. Ezekiel. I think this 1 hour has been very has been very powerful. I've learned a lot. I think we only have two final questions from the chat here. Please, if you have any questions or anything, please share. L asks is, will the IPOs also be open to all Africans? I think the answer is that you have to have a CHN and a CSCS
Yeah,
number.
yeah.
So you need to have an NGX.
It's our company, guys. It's a Nigerian company.
Yeah. Yeah, we will do the South African listing and Kenyan listing this time. Well,
That would be
Nigeria
lovely,
first.
actually. Yeah, that would be lovely. But I
Yeah.
know there are plans for that because I also saw Mr. Dangote mentioned that people can also get paid in rand in cities. So I think that there are plans definitely to make it continental. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I think like what this IPO actually even does, it shows the potential of Africa, like industrialization of Africa per se, and it is actually a bet on the industrialization of Africa,
Absolutely.
because as you have stated clearly, this refinery changes the flow of commodities on our continent. Nigeria moves from being a net importer of petroleum to
Hmm.
becoming a net exporter of petroleum. So that means more effects for us, less FX demand can be transitioned to other sources in the economy,
Yeah,
less pressure. So I think
exactly.
like on the macro side of things,
Hmm.
the refinery is a blessing. Then on the micro, that is where I invest comes in to help you to tie in into this investment opportunity. Another question here, I think is the last one. Is it possible to get shares before September that is being stipulated?
Well, I would say yes, actually. It's possible if you can get into Dangote's list of private space placements, the likes of them, Otedola and the likes, yeah. But as a retail investor, of course, that will not be possible until the effective September dates because they were very clear about the trajectory and the dates, So for instance, they confirmed the IPO in February, I think, yeah, February 2026. And then I think around April was when the prospectus was submitted to SEC, for regulatory review and approval. And then by May, we had the nationwide investor roadshow start. That was when it all started. And then from what we've also seen from the announcement from the Dangote Group, by August, the subscription window would completely open, right? Meaning that you can apply for your shares through the NGX and through iInvest from August, right? And of course, one of the things you want to do before then is join the wait lists of a great platform like iInvest. And why? Because they have direct access to the IPO. So it's a very, very good thing that they have the opportunity for investors. And then by September, that's exactly when everything goes live, and then you can plug in as long as you're already positioned with your money, you have your money ready, you are on the right platform like iInvest. And then once you say, okay, we are live, you simply do what you position and then you get in. And then from there, we begin to count down to growth and yeah, some good returns over time.
Yes. Yes, I think what you have just stated is just very key. Like it's also just very important. Someone is asking how long should we hold on to the shares? Again, we have stated here that we're in for the long term, that we're
I think
long term
I
investors.
have mentioned at least you want to look
Yes,
at 3 to 5 years at least,
yes.
So once you see how it has grown for 3 to 5 years, if you're not investing for 3 to 5 years, there's no point. You
Mm-hmm,
3 to 5 years. Why? Because this is an IPO. This is a company that is going for the long term. It's a company
mm-hmm,
that would be serving not just Nigerians but Africa and the world at large, right?
mm-hmm,
So it's just like planting a cocoa tree. Imagine
mm-hmm.
planting a cocoa tree. Cocoa is a very, very rich, one of the richest agricultural commodities or trees. So imagine planting it and expecting it to start bringing you returns, in the first year, it will be a joke, right? Meanwhile, if you leave it, if you left it for a while, over time, it will make you a lot of money. That's exactly how this is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, thank you, Mr. Isaac. Thank you, everyone, on the call. And before I hand over to the floor to Mr. Isaac for his final thoughts, because 1 hour, this 1 hour we've packed in a lot in 1 hour. I just want to take a moment to speak directly to everyone on this call tonight. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your time. If tonight's conversation has made you think seriously about investing, I hope that has been the point and that has been the aim of this. That's why Mr. Isaac is here with us. I want to make sure that you leave here with some clear next steps. So the first next step is that you should actually join our wait list. It's very easy. Just one click is in the chat. The link is in the Zoom chat. If you want to stay ahead of this opportunity and get early access when it becomes available, please join the wait list. It just takes a minute. Second is you should download the Invest app, and if you don't already, I think you should. It's an app that I use every day. It's an app that helps me with my own investment journey too. And from as low as 5,000 naira to as high as your imagination can get, the platform is built for you. And third, please follow I Invest on our social media platform. We drop financial literacy content regularly, and this Money Lounge is a regular session. So please, we would want you to be a repeat listener, so that you don't also miss future editions. So if you would be personally investing in the Dangote IPO, please just drop yes or no in the chat. I hope I'm able to confuse you and not confuse you. So besides, do you have any last words before we round off for the day? Thank you.
I mean, for me, really, tonight it's been a beautiful time with you all. Thank you for joining, and thank you for joining, and thank you for opening your hearts, to the possibilities in Nigeria right now. What we find and what we see, personally, what I usually see really is a lot of complaints. Nigeria is this, Nigeria is that. But can I tell you something? If you get out of Nigeria, you would appreciate Nigeria big time. Nigeria is one of the few places in the world, if not the best, to actually create wealth. You know why? Because that's where we have most of the biggest challenges, and where you have challenges, we are the ones that usually see challenges as challenges. In actual sense, challenges are simply nothing but opportunities, because it is the solving of a challenge that actually creates wealth for an average person. It was Jeff Bezos I was watching yesterday, and Jeff Bezos, these guys give away billions of dollars in for charity every year, and he was
Mhm.
saying that um, if he's done his job right, that Amazon, which is a profit-making company, is actually changing lives more than is charity giving. Why?
Mhm.
Because the people using those products, imagine a single mother, or even a mother really, that just
Mhm.
gave birth, and she has to go to the market to buy stuff. And all she's got to do is order on Amazon, it gets delivered. That is life change actually, right? You know, so why am I saying that? We need to begin to look inward. And tonight really
Mhm.
is not about Dangote. And why is it not about Dangote? Why? Number one, the refinery has been built, whether we invest or not. That's the truth.
Mhm.
It's been built.
Mhm.
The IPO will happen, whether we
Mhm.
participate or not. Of course, you
Mhm.
already see billionaires lining up and saying that they don't have enough allotted to them, right?
Mhm.
So the real question is, what kind of relationship do you want to have with the Nigerian economy moving
Yep.
forward? What kind of relationship do you want to have with the Nigerian economy moving forward? Because
Mhm.
for over 60 years, most of us have related with this economy as consumers, as complainers, right? This is the first time a massive door, a real door, that we can see that, okay, this is something that will clear queues, this is something that people need, is
Mhm.
being open for ordinary Nigerians to relate as owners. It means you
Yes.
can, you can be part owner of what is driving the economy.
Yeah.
You can walk through it consciously and be a part of what is happening. So as Dangote is making money, when they say
Mhm.
Dangote is the richest man in Africa, you can be one of the people who are getting
Mhm.
richer, always getting richer, based on that stuff, right? Secondly, is that wealth is not built in moment of hype or excitement like we are seeing today. Wealth is actually built through discipline. And what is discipline? Discipline is simply doing what is required, not what you desire. What do I mean by that? When it comes to joining the waitlist now and ensuring that you have your money ready, it's not going to be easy. That's the truth, because there will be alternatives. Alternatives like, okay, you can buy something else, whatever it is, right? So the people who will benefit most from this IPO are not the ones who are shouting and all of that. They are the ones who are registering with iInvest, registering on the NGS platform, who are finding their CSCS number this weekend, or whatever it is, and deciding the budget they want to invest. I saw a question that what's the least amount you can invest? I think that's, of course, nobody knows the actual price for the share yet, but I would think that anything from 20K upwards, you should be able to invest, right, in the Dangote Refinery offer. So because again, that is the whole point of making it available to retail investors, right? So you do not need a godfather when it comes to investing, particularly in building wealth in Nigeria. You need information, and that is why you're in this session. You have the information now. Number two, you need access. And that's why platforms like iInvest matter big time. And then lastly, you need patience. I think I've spoken about that severally, which is very important for you to build wealth, not just now, but on a long time, right? So again, I want to say thank you for joining. It's been a pleasure sharing this evening with you, and I wish you
Yep.
the very best in your wealth building journey.
Yes, so thank you again, Mr. Isaac. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Your clarity and your depth and the way you have broken down this conversation is exactly what I needed, and I'm sure it's also what the audience needed too. So thank you again, everyone, and everyone who joined us this evening. Thank you. Whether you have been here since 5 o'clock, my hands are up for you. If you joined midway, my hands are still up, and I'm just glad that you have taken out time for this conversation. Remember, the smartest investors are the most informed investors. Tonight was just another step in that direction. So again, join our wait list, download our app, and just stay connected because this money launch session is a monthly occurrence. So have a great evening, everyone. Stay sharp, stay informed, and keep building wealth, as Isaac says. Thank you again, everyone. Have a great day.